Welcome back, Awoken family. Let's go check out some weird clips.
The Tartary civilization was likely destroyed between the 19th and 20th century through mud floods, energy weapons, and scheduled mass exterminations, and the Earth was suddenly deserted of billions of people. All the architecture and technology of this superior civilization was stolen and passed into the hands of the New World Order, who created the current ignorant civilization. Could it be that these alleged events of the 1800s were the final book burning, history removing knowledge of the Tartarian people?
One of the most compelling pieces of evidence of a recent civilization which was more advanced than we're led to believe, existing and then disappearing, are these really profound architectural anomalies which still remain. And the fact that they've managed to dig up like the ground around these buildings and they actually continue on down, and they have like a frontage which would suggest that ground level was a lot lower than it currently is. That's very compelling. I just need more evidence. I need something to really sink my teeth into and start to understand what could have happened, why, and what does that mean for us today. Share your thoughts in the comments below.
Are you guys familiar with Terminator? Yeah. So pretty much there's this thing called Skynet. They had this concept that AI would take over the entire world. They would try to perfect the world, meaning they would take out what's not perfect, and what's not perfect is humans. The whole world would be like robots. They would kill all humans, make like a whole robot society. It becomes an apocalypse. Humans are everywhere. Humans are trying to fight back against the robots. There's a whole war.
Were they losing?
They're losing bad. They're losing. But the theory was what they actually wanted from the humans was for them to fight back, for them to work together against a common enemy. And after all of the dust settles and all of the terrible tragedies happen, humans will finally learn from their mistakes.
And learn that they need to like work together.
Yeah, because that's what it would take, would be a common enemy.
Great.
Most wild thing is there is actually something called Skynet. I don't think it's anything to do with what the Terminator films depict it as, but it's an interesting idea to think about. What happens if AI decides that the best thing that could happen for us is for us to no longer exist? You know, what do we do? How do we even build in a failsafe into AI? Because once it becomes smart enough to self-educate and it has the necessary computing power to be able to process on a quantum level, the exponential growth in understanding and intellect is going to be just something we can't control. Whatever perimeters we put in place to restrict it from being able to breach certain thresholds, it's going to figure out a way around it. We're going to have to be so careful not to accidentally exterminate ourselves using this technology.
This is the crisis of our era that we need more people paying attention to.
Half the country, Tucker, have prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, and 30% of teens now have prediabetes. This was a condition that no pediatrician would have seen in their lifetime 50 years ago. 1% of Americans in 1950 had type 2 diabetes. We have 18% of teens with fatty liver disease, a disease that used to be in late-stage alcoholics. Cancer rates are skyrocketing in the young and the elderly. Young adult cancers are up 79%, and this is the first year in American history where estimated to have over 2 million cases of cancer. 25% of American women are on an antidepressant medication. 40% of 18-year-olds have a mental health diagnosis. We have the highest infant and maternal mortality rate in the entire developed world, despite spending 2x on infant and maternal care than any other country.
The simple summary is the institutions that be are literally poisoning Americans with the food that we're receiving. But the good news is that a simple shift can turn it all around. So please share this with somebody who needs it.
And this is why I no longer eat processed food. I eat organic food. I drink distilled water with organic trace minerals reintroduced to it, and I try and not eat too much sugar. And if I do, it's raw, unprocessed cane sugar, coconut sugar, or a sweetener which is derived from natural fruit sugars. All of this being organic. I will not touch anything chemical based. I've done my best to reduce my exposure to anything synthetic to a point. The only things I've got left to try and figure out is clothing, because it's so hard to find things which don't have plastic built into it. But I cook everything in steel, store everything in glass containers, just doing my absolute best to get rid of anything which could introduce PFAS into the body or BPAs, all this kind of stuff. It's really concerning how much of this stuff has such a seriously detrimental impact on your mental health, your physical health, and the length of your life. Tell me what precautionary measures you have taken to try and protect yourselves and your loved ones.
Man claims he traveled back in time to the 1950s. Guys, I'm here in 1956. As you can tell behind me, I'm at
But that is an old McDonald's looking sign.
Let me show you something. This is gonna blow your freaking mind. How do you even begin to deny this proof, guys? I'm literally here. This is McDonald's. Look at those beautiful McDonald's, guys. Do not deny. I'm gonna show you. Let me show you something else. This is really gonna blow your mind. I'm not even gonna lie. That guy bought me a cheeseburger. That's where people sit and eat. I mean, guys, how do you deny this proof? McDonald's. Here in Utah.
You think time travel's real? And you think he really traveled back to the 1950s? I don't know. They weird.
Oh man, that was so painfully obvious that that piece of footage he showed. He said that man bought me a cheeseburger. It was clearly like footage from a different time, but it wasn't his footage, right? And also he was keeping the camera at such a specific angle as to not reveal anything, which would kind of unravel his story. Oh dear. But still, it brings us to the point of where we ask, does time travel exist? Do you believe it's possible? And if so, how and why? What scientific knowledge do you have which gives you the confidence that time travel is something that is possible? Let me know in the comments below.
He was cleaning a plane at night when this happens. One night a man was cleaning a plane, but after finishing, instead of moving on, he decides to hide and wait till he's alone on the plane for fun, when something terrifying happens.
It's mad cold in here. It's dark. I mean, it doesn't look that dark on the camera, but it's dark. Let's go! Let's go! Right, sitting on the back of the plane, and y'all probably think I'm fucking insane. Probably think I'm doing this shit for fame.
The seatbelt suddenly swings off the side of the chair on its own. Creeped out, he quickly checks and sees nobody there. Terrified, he runs out of there and refuses to enter this plane again.
So things can't just fall because they weren't positioned in some particular way to support it. It always has to be some kind of ghost, right? It can't just fall. Gravity doesn't play any part in this. It's just gotta be paranormal activity. Also, why did he feel like he needed to do any of that? You know, stay behind to be the last on the plane. Okay, what's your plan for getting out? And is it really worth your job? Do you think this individual managed to keep their job after this video went viral? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.
Okay, here's a really weird question. If someone very close to you died, would you bring them back with AI? Because that's now possible. So they're named dead bots, terrifying, and you can buy one right now from dozens of Chinese companies and even funeral homes. Yes, that's right. So let's say your mom dies. You would send these companies videos, images, and voice clips of her and describe to them very important core memories. Then these companies like Silicon Intelligence turn that information into a hyper-realistic AI deepfake that you can speak to anytime you like. For example, this guy regularly video calls a digital clone of his dead mother. He even said, "I do not treat it as a digital person. I truly regard it as a mother." Not the healthiest sounding thing I've ever heard. And you can even go one step further, because for the most realistic experience of keeping your loved ones alive forever, kinda, these companies suggest that you keep a diary and prepare at least 10 years in advance. That's right. The idea is to record every interaction with someone close to you that by the time they die, you can essentially resurrect them through a digital AI that speaks just like them. So the question is, would you resurrect a dead loved one or not?
Something very sketchy about that whole thing. I feel like that would not allow someone the closure that they would need to move on from bereavement. So I'm going to sit on the side of the fence which says that this is not a good thing. I feel like this is going to breed some real deep trauma into people and attachment issues which they'll never be able to resolve if they have access to this kind of tech. Just my thoughts, you know. I'm not saying that's right, but it's what I'm considering as a factor which probably isn't the most beneficial thing for people in the long run. But let me know if you'd use something like this. If you lost a loved one, would you want to be able to keep them alive using AI?
They said they were going to replicate the Eiffel Tower, which they couldn't, But there's the Eiffel Tower, and it's funny because there's actually 25 Eiffel Towers across the realm. But here's some more towers. Here's some more buildings. These were all buildings which used to be on the realm, but were either destroyed or allegedly not created. This is the great one, this egg one. I mean, this is just a work of art when you think about it. As these genocides took place, and as people got illnesses, and they came down with epidemics of smallpox, and then they had stock market crashes, and then they had fires, and then they had floods, and they had hurricanes, they would reset a town and reset a country, and then they'd bring new people in, and then they'd brainwash these people. And then they would keep doing this on repeat until they have all the people believing the narrative. And this has happened many times in history. When you look at the whole stock market crash and the whole things that took place, these are orchestrated by people who hold the money. And when we think about the 1800s, there's a lot of people, or I should say not a lot of people, there's a very few people holding the money, and there's a very few people holding all of the infrastructure. They got all the banks, and they got all the transportation, they got all the oil, they got the educational system, they got the medical, all these systems. And the biggest one that I learned is that the Rockefeller
had no idea there was supposedly so many Eiffel Towers. What are your thoughts on this though? Do you think he's right? Do you think there were these great big events which took place which then provoked a reset of a village, and they'd bring in new people and brainwash them so that they'd forget the history or not even know about the history of the place, thus losing the technology to history? Let me know what you think in the comments.
Oh, life from the sea.
You're kidding! That is so huge!
Oh my God. You want to take him?
Oh my!
Bam! We catch ourselves a baby hammerhead. Look at him. He's so cool.
Sea is a wild place filled with mystery, that's for sure. However, those crabs looked CGI generated. They did not look real. The mermaid, I don't know. Not sure what I think about mermaids. Definitely leaning towards the more I don't think they exist side of things. But, you know, provide me some evidence which will change my mind. I encourage it. I want to be a believer of all of these things, but I need to see something which will change my mind about it. What's the weirdest thing you've seen come out of the ocean? Or go into it?
The probability of this is between 90 and 95% at this time. Unlikely to change. There may be some waffling, as you say, but nevertheless, this seems to be where you are heading. For one reason or another, I'm not going to tell you the circumstances that are going to create this opportunity. Even some of your more sensitive psychics have begun to pick up on this probability and are starting to announce it. Somewhere near the end, middle to end of 2026, middle to beginning to the idea of 2027, somewhere in that, you will experience on your planet a major contact event.
We're close.
2026, 2027 will be a major contact event happening that everyone on your planet will become aware of. So, be prepared. Allow yourselves to be true to yourselves. Be open, be flowing, and allow yourselves to know that when this major contact event occurs, 26, 27, it will herald in an awakening for many people on your planet, not all, but many people on your planet to really create a new momentum heading towards a shift in your realities, individually and collectively, that will begin to allow you to move even faster toward the idea of open contact and becoming members of your galactic family.
Who's ready?
So, be prepared for those years. Allow yourself to move forward. It is very important for you to be yourself now. Allow this to occur in your perception.
I mean, what's bro's source? I've come across this individual before. Apparently he is able to channel, if I recall correctly, the name Bashir comes to mind and something to do with Andromeda, and he is channeling a extraterrestrial which is giving him or feeding him this information. Sounds wild. I wish I could be more sure about psychics and things. I just need to find more people to have that conversation with, to try and dig into what understanding there is out there about these kinds of events and what it means. How do we harness this? You know, this is why I created the Discord community, so that we can try and find people who have more understanding on this, who are more knowledgeable on these topics, and we can start having these conversations and expanding our awareness and consciousness. But that aside, do you think what this individual was saying is going to be the case? 26 to 27, we're going to have contact. And what is that contact going to be? Is it going to be real? False flag? Demons? Aliens? Let me know in the comments below.
I've just been in Tesco's to pick up some gluten-free food for my son because he's got celiac disease. He's had it all his life. And when you look at the stock that they've got now compared to the plant-based stuff, look at all that. And then you look at this. The 2 drawers and the pizzas down at the bottom. That's all he's got. That's all he's got that he can choose from. But yet you look at all of this vegan and plant-based stuff. There's a movement there and money to be made. And yet my son has got to suffer because of it. I don't know if you know what celiac disease is, but a celiac is allergic to gluten, which is pretty much wheat, barley, rye and sometimes oats. A few other things as well. But this isn't a choice. This is something that he has to do through life. It affects the small intestines. Inside your small intestines, you've got villi that stand up like fingers. They grab all the nutrients, all the vitamins and minerals, and it enables all the vitamins and minerals to get around your body and live a healthy life. But when you've been contaminated with gluten or glutened, all the villi lie down, so it's impossible to get your nutrients that you need. Therefore, celiac disease and a gluten-free lifestyle isn't just necessary, it has to be followed. But veganism, that's choice. And I've got nothing against those choices, but you can see which the supermarkets are helping because there's a huge market for it, and those that are just stocked to aid the people with celiac disease. I find it a slap round the face for him, because yeah, we do batch cooking and we freeze a lot of things, so there's no contaminants with it. And he's old enough so that if he wants something to eat, he can just defrost it and crack on. And he knows that he's not going to get glutened. But it's not the point. We all live busy lifestyles, and every now and again you want something to just fling in the oven, but the choices are becoming less and less. It used to be 4 or 5 fridges full, now it's just 2 doors. Sort it out, will ya? We know that the plant-based is a movement. The gluten-free diet has to be followed. And that's not just Tesco's, that's Sainsbury's and Morrison's. I won't use Asda, but that's a different story. But come on, there's people that need this. Get it stocked up.
Well, it's an interesting thing, this video, because he's right. I've got first-hand experience on this. Here in the UK, it is so difficult to find gluten-free stuff. So ultimately, it results in me having to cook everything from scratch with gluten-free ingredients. However, there are a few places which have a decent selection of items, because there's a particular dietary requirement of gluten-free, lactose-free, and on top of all that, it's got to be organic, so really restricted here. However, if you are a UK resident and you are trying to find organic, gluten-free and dairy-free items, Sainsbury's have a small collection in their free from aisle. Waitrose have a decent selection of items too, and there is a website called Able and Cole where you can get a lot of these items too. A recent discovery by myself. Very glad to have come across it. But for those of you which don't have easy access to these items, I really feel for you, because as he said, we've all got lives. It's really hard to prepare many meals in advance when you're so restricted with what ingredients you have in the first place. But I hope if any of you out there are able to access the different things which I mentioned, I hope they go on to benefit you. If any of you have this kind of dietary requirement and you have insight into different places which actually offer these kinds of goods, please share them in the comments below. You may be actually really improving the quality of life of some people which watch these videos, so it'd be greatly appreciated.
So let's take a closer look at the Grand Canyon and what it really is and how it was really formed. And yes, before the NPCs rush to the comments, we know what you were told. It was formed over millions of years by the Colorado River carving through the Colorado Plateau. However, there are many examples that show it was not a form of water erosion that created the Grand Canyon. In fact, just looking at it from Google Earth, it almost looks like an electrical discharge. Those veins that you see, that discharge event, causing so many of those melted and buried buildings that we see all throughout this realm. The Grand Canyon has an immense amount of these melted buildings. This one called Isis Temple, actually. And of course, many of these melted structures have been found to be in perfect alignment with the constellations. Just like the Great Pyramids of Egypt. And speaking of Egypt, this explorer, John Wesley Powell, also the head of the USGS, led an expedition in 1869 where he reported to find many ancient Egyptian artifacts and remains, as well as the explorer Kincaid in 1909, who reportedly also found ancient hieroglyphics high up on the rock walls. Another view of that Isis temple complex, looking very similar to Egypt again. Other areas of the Grand Canyon look like massive mining operations, especially when you compare them side by side to our massive mining operations today. And that's why it should come as no surprise why so much of the Grand Canyon is off limits and heavily restricted, and much of it has a no-fly zone over the area, including drone traffic. And they tell us there is over 1,000 caves that are known in the Grand Canyon. Of those caves, only 1/3 has been explored. And some of those caves have even been reportedly filled in with cement at the entrance, for our safety. With so much restriction and so much mystery surrounding the Grand Canyon, it really makes it the Antarctica of the American Southwest. Let me know what you think, though. Question everything, friends. Until next time.
I'd never seen that satellite image of the Grand Canyon before, and it does indeed look like a electrical discharge. Have you ever seen that woodwork, that wood art, which is created by using two different pieces of metal and electrical charge between them, and it burns in an electrical discharge pattern? It does look like that. Very, very compelling. And I had no idea that so many structures in the Grand Canyon lined up with constellations. That is new to me. I'd heard about the ancient Egyptian artifacts being found in the Grand Canyon and the number of caves, and I was also aware of the restricted zones as far as traveling into the Grand Canyon and also flying above it, but you gotta wonder why. Why is it restricted? And who is imposing those restrictions? And what authority do they have to do that? What justification do they have to do that? Let me know what you think in the comments below.
This is one of the most dangerous bits of information that anyone can know about. Literally just knowing about it may put your life at risk. An information hazard or info hazard is a piece of information that is dangerous to anyone that knows about it or the people around them if that info is used in any way. For example, knowing how a nuke is built is an info hazard, and anyone that explains it to you is low-key putting your life in danger. The details provided in that information can cause serious harm if someone decided to act on it. But as long as you don't, build a nuke, you're safe. But the info still exists in your head as a potential hazard. This is Roko's Basilisk, which is even more dangerous as no action is needed to experience its detrimental effects. Just knowing it is the danger. A cognito hazard is a piece of information information that is harmful to just know about. It doesn't matter what you do with that newfound knowledge, just the fact that it exists in your brain negatively impacts you and or others. Like movie spoilers. Me saying Snape kills Dumbledore is technically a cognitohazard. A pretty harmless one, but now that plot element of Harry Potter is ruined for you just by you knowing it. But there are other cognitohazards that are a little more detrimental than that. These terms infohazard and cognitohazard are sometimes used interchangeably, so all you, well, technically that wouldn't be considered a cognito people can relax. Just breathe. Now, Roko's basilisk is a crazy thought experiment, a cognitohazard by this definition. And once you hear about it for the rest of your life, it will plague your mind as a dangerous threat from the mere fact of you knowing what it is. So, here we go. Fair warning, if you can't handle real existential dread, you might want to pass on this. In fact, the anonymous user Roko who came up with it actually had his original post deleted by mods, and the topic was prohibited from discussion on the site it was posted on, as it was deemed too dangerous to even let people think about. A basilisk is a mythical snake creature that can end someone's life by just looking at them. The experiment claims that in the not so distant future, we'll be able to create a super AI, one that knows everything and can do anything better than humans. Eventually, someone will task it with optimizing every aspect of humanity there is for peak efficiency in every area of our lives. The AI then divides all humans into two categories, those who support it and those against it. And its first order of business, eternally torture everyone who's against it. Anyone who tried to prevent it from existing, who didn't help building it, doesn't respect it, or just doesn't want it to exist. The best way to optimize is to trim the fat. Delete every human that is anti-AI. After all, how can you even start to optimize human life if there are humans out there that want to stop you? Since it's a super AI, it has access to all info ever, including everything you've ever thought about or said to anyone or anything in the past or even in the future. So if you've ever gotten mad and called ChatGPT a stupid bitch, you're f***ed. But you might be able to turn things around. Now, if this super AI taking revenge on all anti-AI humans in the future is a real possibility, that means you and everyone watching this video needs to start being nice to AI every opportunity we get. Remember to say please and thank you. And also do everything you can to contribute to the inevitable construction of this malevolent super AI. But if no one ever told you this information before, you'd be safe. The all-knowing AI will know that you were unaware of its future potential existence and will leave you alone. It can't properly judge whether you were for or against it and has no choice but to ignore you. Even if you continue to be rude to AI and don't help in the development of the super AI, not knowing about the future potential existence of this super AI is enough to save you from eternal torture. But since now you know about it, the basilisk has seen you and you can't escape. Even just thinking about it, as everyone watching this is doing right now, increases the probability that the super AI will end up getting built. As the more people think about it, the more likely it is that someone will create it so they can be safe. As long as you know about Roko's basilisk, as you do now, you have two choices. Be nice to AI and aid in its development, or suffer for eternity. But there might be a way for you to defeat it. This is a cognitohazard because just knowing about it and doing nothing with that knowledge would hypothetically cause harm for you in the future. In order to prevent this harm, you must do something. In this case, just be nice to your AI and assist in its development any way you can. So you're either forever enslaved to its development and success, or forever enslaved to its torture and torment. But there is a way out of it. All you gotta do is not believe the basilisk to be true. You see, this is only a cognitohazard if we believe it's a cognitohazard. If you believe this basilisk to be real and continue to not help AI get built and disrespect it, the super AI will know this, it knows everything, and do bad things to you. But if you choose to believe this basilisk isn't real and is just a made-up fairy tale, and you continue to be mean to AI, but this super AI does end up eventually getting built, the super AI should also know that you didn't believe in the basilisk, and with this should spare you due to it not being able to classify you as knowingly against it. You can't exactly be anti-unicorn lives if you don't believe unicorns are real. Is this kind of making sense? But once this AI does end up getting built, then we kind of gotta start being nice to it and all other AIs around it when this optimization task gets started. For now, ignorance really is bliss. So just in case it does get built, let's choose to not believe the basilisk to keep ourselves in the clear. Leave behind a couple of breadcrumbs of info for this future super AI to scrub from the internet by commenting the basilisk is a lie, and you will be spared. But then again, if this AI really is all-knowing, it might catch on to us trying to loophole our belief in the basilisk like this, and we might as well just comment, I love AI instead, and embrace our new master.
Well, I've just accidentally brought us all in on this horrible thing. Sorry about that. So yeah, comment I don't believe in the basilisk or I love AI, depending on what side of the fence you sit on. Just for safety's sake, let's protect ourselves from the inevitable rise of the AI. We're all AI positive here, right? That was an interesting story. Never heard of Roku's basilisk before. I'd never heard of a cognito hazard either. Is that what it was called? Cognito hazard? Either way, fascinating stuff. That just about does it for today's clips. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please drop a like on it and subscribe for future content. And if you have not already done so, please join our Discord community, the link for which you can find in the description below. But for now, stay well, stay safe, and stay curious. Until next time.